This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, Bo Cook from Loan Market, BTZD, the official apparel partner of the Paracave Podcast, and the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and this is the replay chat of my chat that I have with the Duckman on Pulse FM every Sunday night. This one is a replay of, and today, we discuss the Bathurst 1000 that was on the weekend, and a great race it was, with congratulations to Shane Van Gisbergen getting up there, and Richie Stanaway as well for his first Bathurst victory, so we chat a little bit about that. We also talk about Nathan Merritt as well, a champion player who's doing... former player of the South Sydney Rabbitohs, who is doing it very tough at the moment, so our thoughts and prayers go out to Nathan. We just discussed that as that came up over the weekend, and we also talk about the battle on the Reef as well, some current NRL players and former NRL players in the boxing ring. We talk about the Cricket World Cup as well, so a little bit of everything. This chat with the Duckman on Pulse FM, something that I do every Friday and Sunday. So check this one out, tell me your thoughts, and now it is over to you, Duckman.
Back to the weekend sports wrap. So that was We Belong from Pat Benatar. So why did I play that? If you don't know why I played that, you've never seen the Ballad of Ricky Bobby, so Talladega Nights. That is a mad show. It's the funniest show. I really take the P, Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, as well as Sacha Baron Cohen, out of all the NASCAR drivers in America. Troy is on with us now. Troy Warner from the Paracave Podcast. Troy, how are you going?
Going fantastic, Duckman. And you know what? The ironic thing is that today's winner of the Bathurst 1000, Shane Van Gisbergen, is actually going to NASCAR next year. So, pretty appropriate song to play for him just then.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think it is. So he's over there. We've got a few people over there now as well. Scott McLaughlin's over there too. He was watching the race I saw earlier on Facebook. So talking about Scott McLaughlin, do you follow him on Facebook at all?
Yeah, I see his posts come up every now and again, and he's still very much in touch with the supercars, and he loves watching the supercars, and he's going quite well in the NASCAR series as well. I think... the IndyCars, I think he's in. And
IndyCars,
I think third place in the championship, I think. So, it's good to see that he succeeded in supercars and he's making a name for himself over there in the US, and what Shane Van Gisbergen will want to do next year.
Yeah, so that's what they're doing. So IndyCars, for anyone that doesn't know, are effectively the equivalent style of Formula One cars. So for American races, it's different. So there's more IndyCar races around too. So in Formula One, there's like 25 cars or whatever all up in the competition. In IndyCars, I think there's about 50. So there's a lot more. There's a fair bit of money in it. It's very, very competitive. Like I call it open wheel racing. So basically, you're driving effectively like Formula One style cars, and they get into it too. So it's a bit of rubbing and racing and bumping and grinding and everything. So if you're a big fan of Days of Thunder or you're a fan of Talladega Nights, which I just mentioned too, that might be for you. So I like it, but it's different. The V8 supercars have become a little bit bland for me, to be honest with you. I just said at the start of the show, I want to see them do something different, make them race with electric cars at 60 k's an hour at Bathurst and have to take kids with them for at least 500 k's or do something different. Maybe I wonder if they get different results in Bathurst if they staggered the start times and started people at different stages throughout the race and, effectively doing time trials around the track to see how you go. And the winner won't be decided until the last lot of people have finished.
Well,
you think that would get different?
As it is now, the race goes for about 6 hours. So if you're going to be racing in electric cars going about 60 kilometres an hour, it'd be like another version of another version of the 12-hour that they race around Bathurst early on in the year. But look, I mean, that's how the sport has evolved at the moment with the two manufacturers. And look, it was great back in the day, back in the early days of touring car racing, where you used to see, Nissans, BMWs, Jaguars, Fords, Holdens, all race against each other, all different classes. But the sport's evolved now, and they just got the Camaros and the Mustangs. So, and look, as you said, back in the day, you used to win on Sunday and buy on Monday. I think that's the saying that they used to have. But these days, it's completely different. I mean, we saw over the weekend some of the classic Bathurst cars do parade laps. I think there was Brocky's Commodore from 1986. There was a Mustang from Dick Johnson from 1985, Larry Perkins 1993 Commodore, and to look inside those cars, completely different to what we see today.
Yeah, well, even if you look, so two of the most successful cars there were, and they're only in for a couple of seasons, were the Nissan GTRs that Jim Richards and Mark Scaife had. They had the four-wheel drive twin turbos, Godzillas. They were absolute beast mode cars, and they were so much above the rest of the cars, they leveled the field out by taking out, you couldn't race four-wheel drive twin turbos anymore, had to be factory cars, and they just kept modifying the rules till they made it so bland it's not even slightly funny.
Yeah, well, an interesting thing about that is, you're right, the Nissans back in the day, 91, 92, 1990, were pretty dominant in Australia, and the Japanese wanted them to come over to Japan and race, but then they actually rang them up and said, what's happening? And they said, we're coming over to Japan to race. And we said, I think they said, no, we don't want you to, because they're so dominant. Because they ended up making pretty much all the parts for those Nissans in Australia. They didn't use any Japanese parts. So that's amazing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's an interesting little twist. I didn't know about that. So I knew that they were making them Australian-made to some level. So we had all the car manufacturers over here. I can't remember how many years ago it was now, maybe 10 years ago, when they had, I think they got the Mercedes was racing in Bathurst as well. They got Toyota took up a spot. So I thought that was going to change the landscape for the better. So, and they dropped out after a couple of years. Then they got in Formula One as well, and they've dropped out of that too. So we're obviously looking at a different philosophy. I do know they race in the Super Tourers in Europe in like the 2-litre and 3-litre cars, which is like what the supercars used to be in the 90s. So they still race that sort of stuff in Europe, and it's a different world. So like that's what I mean. Like Bathurst is an endurance race. It's a little bit hard to watch when you only got two competitive racing car teams now. So it's getting harder for me to follow. So than what it was, and you got the same people up the top all the time too. So Shane Van Gisbergen moving on. I think that's good for the competition, right? So we'll keep on seeing people evolve and change and have a genuine chance, but it's open up for championship as well, which is what you want to see, really. So you can see younger people like Brody Kostecki develop and come through the competition. And, they'll be really happy. The Airbus team look like they're going to wrap up the championship this year if they haven't already done it.
Yeah, so just talking about the Bathurst 1000, yesterday Brody Kostecki from the Coca-Cola team, Erebus team, he did a absolute flying lap to secure pole position in the top 10 shootout yesterday. Young Brock Feeney was second in that, so he started second in the race. So that was the highlight of the Saturday. Definitely the top 10 shootout of the afternoon. That's what everyone wants to see, where the competitors have the track to themselves, a one-lap dash to themselves. So, look, the funny thing about Brody Kostecki as well is I think he still has a few goals to tick off here in Australia. But I think also, too, he has an interest as well of going over to the US and competing in NASCAR as well. So he's still got a few goals to tick over, but I think he's slowly continuing to tick those goals. It looks like he may win this year's championship, and it'd be good to see a winner of the championship. And there's only 2 races to go at the Gold Coast and Adelaide as well. So it's going to be an interesting end to the race. But look, congratulations to Shane Van Gisbergen. It was his and Richie Stanaway. It was Richie's first Bathurst victory and Shane's third victory. So he now joins Dick Johnson, the legendary Dick Johnson, on 3 Bathurst wins, and Triple Eight have now won 10 Bathurst. So a massive achievement by them. So look, it was an interesting race. There wasn't much. There was, I think, 3 safety cars in the entire race. There was only about 1 accident. James Moffat hit the inside of the dipper and then speared him off into the other side wall, and their day was done. But look, other than that, the most, I guess you could call, tragic thing to come out of it was young Brock Feeney. He was in third position, I think it was, looking pretty good, but then had a gearbox issue where he couldn't change gears. So devastating, and he was devastated in the pits, and our thoughts go out with him because he was looking in such a good position. But that's what Bathurst can do to you.
Yeah, blown transmission is going to undo your day every day. So there's plenty of guys I've seen over the years were the best driver at the time and looked like they were going to win it and all this sort of stuff, and go on the Bathurst and it levels you out. So this year was fairly warm. But when it's warm, there's not too much variation. I don't mind it when it's cool or it's raining. It changes the races right up. So sometimes guys that you would think might not be up there in the running have a better than average chance to win because it changes the variables. And the guy I'm thinking of is Glenn Seaton. He looked like he was going to win it years ago. I don't remember exactly when it was, in the 90s, I think, or early 2000s. They just had someone run in the back of him and he punched into the wall up McPhillamy Park or something, and that was the end of his race, all over and done with. So
yeah,
and it wasn't even 100% his fault.
Yeah, no, we often talk in rugby league terms about players who don't win premierships. Well, Glenn Seaton, he certainly falls into that category of champion drivers who don't win Bathurst. And I think there was also another time up there in Bathurst where I think a $1 or $2 part broke or something like that, and his race ended while he was in the lead or something like that. So look, it can be a cruel place, that's for sure, but it's the one weekend where motorsport fans, it's Christmas for them, and anything can happen in Bathurst, and it's such a hard race to predict as to what's going to happen. And especially this year too, with the new Gen 3 cars, they hadn't raced at Bathurst before, so there was a lot of iffing and sort of unknowns about tyre life and fuel loads and stuff like that. So as it was, most of the cars were pretty successful in finishing the race, and they'll get some data from this race today and use it again for next year.
Yeah, there you go. So what I like with everything there too in Bathurst is that a lot of the young guys coming through have got it's opening up now, so they've got a better chance. And I liked when Jamie Whincup a few years ago, despite his team orders telling him, back off a little bit, you're going to run out of fuel and it's going to be too bad. He goes, no, I'm going to run it to the end. Yeah, good mate. I don't like you. So the fact that happened, I was just laughing. That was the funniest thing ever. So I've actually had that happen to me when I'm driving a car, run out of fuel, and you go, gee, am I going to floor it or what? So, and it ran out of fuel turning into the servo and had enough momentum to roll up to the Bowser. So in one of my old XC Falcons. So that was back in the day, I can tell you right now, in the 90s.
Yeah, we were talking about that. I think he was talking about one of his victories on a show I watched the other day, and yeah, he had to plug the sponsors, saying that, yeah, I had about a Red Bull can full of petrol left in the car, so yeah, there's a couple of opportunities there. He was looking pretty good today, as I said, with Brock Feeney. He started the race on the front row and was winning the race for a long time there, and yeah, he was looking pretty good. He's not a full-time driver anymore. He's only a co-driver in the endurance events. He won Sandown with Brock a couple of weeks ago. So, and he is the owner of the team as well. So, even though his day and Brock's day wasn't too good, he still got a winner in the team of Shane Van Gisbergen and Richie Stanaway, who become the first dual Kiwi combo to win the Great Race since Greg Murphy and Steve Richards did it in 1999.
Yeah, there you go. That's way back in the day too. Pretty sure that might have been one of the first variations of Triple Eight racing. So I can't remember off the top of my head. Would be way back in the day of that. But yeah, I do remember it. We're going to kick on now. So talk about one of the sad things, unfortunately, come up over this weekend. So Nathan Merritt, unfortunately, has had a medical episode and he's been placed in coma after having an adverse reaction to medication to treat the injuries he sustained when he's playing football over the years. What are some of your memories of Nathan? I know, from my opinion, I thought at the time, I can think of like three really dynamic wingers. Nathan Blacklock would be one. Nathan Merritt would be one. So Indigenous guys too that were outstanding. And the other one would be, well, there's not a winger, but David Peachy. So think of guys like that. And Nathan Merritt is outstanding. He's very good. So, and a lot of the records he achieved, he did a lot of stuff for South. So he played, 218 games or something like that for South all up. Got 146 tries, and brought it up at the start of the show. 2 times he was the leading try scorer of it, I can remember off the top of my head. And both those 2 years that I'm thinking of, I'm pretty sure South's come last or second last and like fourth last or something. They were right down the bottom of the table. So what he did should never be discounted ever.
Yeah, no, first of all, our thoughts and prayers go out to Nathan and his family at this difficult time, and let's hope that he does pull through. The reports came through on, I think it was Saturday morning, that he was in a Sydney hospital in a critical condition. So let's just hope that he pulls through, and our thoughts and prayers go towards him and his family. But yeah, no, you're right. He was a champion player in the NRL. He was one of, as you said, he scored the highest tries in the competition, and South were right down the bottom of the competition. I think even one year was Wooden Spooners. So to be the top try scorer for a lowly ranked team is an outstanding achievement. Played 237 games, scored 154 tries, was a goal kicker as well, 40 goals, and also kicked a field goal. And I think that field goal was at the SCG to win South a game against, I think it was the Tigers at the SCG one day. But look, a champion player, played for New South Wales, represented the PM's 13, and unfortunately didn't play in South Sydney's 2014 grand final win over Canterbury. He retired at the end of that year, and unfortunately there must have been something going on at the time, because despite being part of the South Sydney squad, he didn't attend the grand final. He was choosing to play in the Koori knockout, which he did last weekend, just gone as well, the same tournament that Josh Adokar got suspended for. So look, champion player, was probably unlucky not to play for New South Wales more than once. Did represent the Indigenous All-Stars on 3 occasions, and as we said, hopefully he pulls through, and our thoughts and prayers go towards him and his family.
Yeah, so that's what, definitely hoping that. So no one wants to see any bad things happen to anyone, and just can't believe the number of things that are happening to some old retired footballers now. They're just falling on some ill health and poor luck, and I think someone come out today and said need to do more for old retired footballers. They have become forgotten quickly because the new crop of youngsters is constantly churning. It's churn and burn in football. Like they say the average first grade footballer only plays like 46 first grade games or 50 first grade games or something like that, and then your career's done. So, he played like 240 games or something like that. That's pretty extraordinary what he did. Played a lot of games and over a long period of time, and not many people do that now. And some of the guys, they don't deal with it the best because they've gone from their whole life has been football and it's not there anymore. You've got to try to fill that gap. So, let's hope for the best there and see what happens to Nathan. Rugby World Cup. You've been following the Rugby World Cup at all, Troy?
Not really, to be honest. I've seen a few results here and there, and obviously have known about the Wallabies not making it through to the quarterfinals, unfortunately. So, obviously, a lot of pressure on Eddie Jones at the moment.
Yeah, so that's not a guarantee yet either. So Portugal can beat Fiji tomorrow by more than 8 points, and Fiji don't get a bonus point from. So we've got to beat them by 8 points. That's the first thing. If I beat them by 7, they'll get a bonus point, and the Wallabies are gone. They need to win by 8 points. Need to make sure Fiji don't score 4 tries, and all these things need to happen. So Portugal actually have a decent chance of winning, and that keeps the Wallabies in the mix at the moment. I don't think they're going to do it.
Wouldn't that be a bit of a turn up if Portugal do pull that off and the Wallabies go through to the quarterfinals?
Yeah. And imagine if the Wallabies went through there and won the comp. What would it be like? The egg on the face had to be one of those sliding doors moments for sure. The game I'm thinking of in particular is last night, England versus Samoa. England won 18-17. Oh, no, that's a close game, bit non-eventful. Yes, you would think so, except Samoa scored a try and the ref let it go. And then they took the conversion and kicked it, and they were running back for the kickoff. And then the TMO, television match official, which is like the bunker, basically come in and gone, no try, overruled it. And they canned the try, and it's cost Samoa the game. Samoans are up in arms. They're blowing up about it, and just wonder, it just looks bad. It's a bad look. And it was, from what people have told me, it was a try for like all money. I haven't seen it yet, so I've got to capture it and see it. I'll be talking about it next week. I can tell you that when I know for sure. But there's a conspiracy out there that the rich countries that have a lot of power and influence with commercial partners and that stuff get the ball bouncing in their favour pretty well in international rugby compared to like the Samoas, Fijis, Tongas, the Pacific Islands and smaller nations. It looks bad. It looks really bad. So what happened? I don't think that's the case. I just think that effectively the bunkers, that bunker style rugby union, they stuffed up bad. So if it happened in rugby, I know the laws of the game say that if you score a try, what's supposed to happen is the try stand. If the conversion gets taken, the try stands. So, and the referee, no one looked at the law book. No one looked at any of this stuff. They just made a decision on the run, and it's completely wrong. And IRB went, yeah, we got it wrong. Sorry. They like, oh, okay, cool. That fixes everything. So you're remorseful about it. Well, what would happen? Could you imagine that happened in the grand final last week? Rugby league, what would have happened?
Yeah, well, we always talk about that, don't we, with all different sort of rules in rugby league and calls in rugby league. I mean, only a couple of weeks ago, it was the Broncos who scored that try off those 2 forward passes, and we were all talking about, well, what happens if that happens in the grand final? Something needs to be done. Well, this is a World Cup and something like that's happened, so I couldn't imagine how the Samoans are feeling at the moment. The English obviously got away with a lucky one there.
Yeah, 100%. So with Samoa sitting, they could have qualified. So if they had have won, they would have only got, well, they didn't get 4 tries. Well, I don't think that would have been their 4th try, but they would have got the win. So it would have put them on 11 points. Potentially they'd make it through to the quarterfinals. So now they missed out. They played all the games, and the last game's going to come down to Argentina and Japan. So should never have happened like that ever. So like that's just bad. It's a bad look. Rugby's really got egg on their face at the moment. Like I said, right on the Wallabies wave here. Let's go Portugal. So if you like the Wallabies, Eddie Jones, I bet there'll be pictures of him tomorrow wearing a Portugal. Someone will put the meme up. I'm going to try to do it myself if I can. get a Portugal jersey on him. So we'll def ride it and hope Fiji choke under pressure and Portugal win. So, funnily enough, Portugal are actually good enough to potentially do it too. So we'll see if they actually can get the business done and help the Wallabies get through. We'll be limping through a broken leg, I can tell you. So we're going to have problems for the rest of the comp. So the other thing I want to have a look at with you is the one-day World Cup. Australia's taken on India tonight. Last time we played India a couple of weeks ago, we lost by 88 runs on an adjusted total. But India got 400 and Australia got bowled out for 200. So if Australia is serious, we lost effectively by nearly 200 runs, like 196 runs or something like that. How is Australia going to fair income go in the World Cup here in the one-day International World Cup?
Yeah, well, look, they've been struggling the last few weeks, haven't they, in their warm-up games that they've played against various countries, and I don't think they've won anything. I don't think they've won one game here and there, but as a cricket watcher, not an avid cricket watcher, but it's certainly disappointing for them to lose those games. And look, it's going to be tough being in India against playing the home side tonight. No doubt there'll be a sellout crowd there, so they'll be up against the crowd as well. And they're pretty vocal, the old Indian crowd, so they're going to have them against them. But look, it's going to be tough, isn't it, to beat India on home soil in a one-day international. Australia, they go all right in one-day international World Cups. They've won a few in a row there in the late 90s, early 2000s, and was it 2015? I think they won one as well. On home soil as well. So, look, they go all right, and they'll want to prove that. They always play with pride in the Australian jersey, so they'll want to get off to a good start by trying to beat India tonight.
Yeah, so they can beat India. Not sure if they will beat India. It doesn't get easier for Australia either. Got South Africa on Thursday, then a couple of days later, next Monday, got Sri Lanka. So playing in the subcontinent, those sides over there, they love it. Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, they're always going to do fairly well in this World Cup.
Yeah, Australia go all right. Australia go all right.
Australia should do well.
But they do struggle over on the subcontinent. I mean, they did win that World Cup back in 1987, the first one for Australia, with Alan Border as captain, but they just seem to struggle, I think, over in the subcontinent.
Yeah, so what I'm hoping, Bangladesh won a game last night, so got Netherlands and Afghanistan as well in this. So the West Indies, so this is one I chatted about earlier on the year. West Indies didn't make this World Cup, so in the competition we've got New Zealand, South Africa, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Australia, India, Afghanistan, Netherlands, Sri Lanka, and England. So it's the first time West Indies never made one of these tournaments. It's bad. So I think they shouldn't be playing everybody once either. I think there should be pool games similar to like what they do in the Cricket World Cup. West Indies probably still should have been in. They should have perhaps another two teams and play pools where if you finish in your pool in the top couple of groups, then like the top two or the top one at each group, and then the next best out of like whatever else, however you want to work it out. Make it like a bit of a repechage system like what happened in the Rugby World Cup or like what used to happen in the Soccer World Cup. So we can get more sides in it. So I don't think they should be excluding sides. And you've got Ireland and Scotland are very good in the world of one-day cricket and T20 cricket too. So I really think, so this tournament, the big thing that's come out about it is the crowds have been really poor for everyone outside the Indian team so far. So they're concerned that one-day cricket is actually dying. So, and Pat Cummins even come out today and said, well, there's so much stuff on, something's got to give somewhere. So what do you think is going to give in the world of cricket? Got test match cricket, got this 50 over one-day cricket, and then got T20. T20 looks like it's ingratiated in society now, and surely test cricket's going to last. So that's the obvious selection here for what's going to get hit is going to be the one-day international cricket.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you. I think, as we've all seen, I think the 20-over format, I think that'll stay for sure. There's so many successful competitions around the world, and we see here in Australia, the Big Bash as well, that's pretty successful. So I think that one will stay. And look, Test cricket, that's a given. That just has to stay, doesn't it? I mean, that's where the whole game started from. So that just has to stay. I mean, we've had cricket has had its critics over the last few years about Test match cricket and not going the distance in Test matches when Australia's been so dominant on Australian shores. But look, that just has to stay. And I think you might be right. I think maybe this could possibly be the last one-day international World Cup. It just depends on the attendances and the TV ratings and whether people are watching it, and see how it goes. I mean, Australia hasn't been that successful in the last few years, but as I said before, they go out to try and win everything. But I think, maybe the 50 over World Cup, 50 over game might be slowly being phased out.
Well, that's what I think's happening too. So it's just got to find more players, right? So players that play T20 cricket don't necessarily suit one-day internationals. They're more 50 over cricket, and Test cricket players don't necessarily suit T20 cricket. So the old guys probably do because they're slash and bash for fun, but it's a different dynamic now. It's like sevens rugby. So people play sevens rugby are not necessarily guys that are going. The guys that play for the Australian sevens rugby team are not going to play for the Wallabies, and I don't think they could play for the Wallabies either. Like, they're decent rugby players, but it's a different game. So, and I think this is what's happening with cricket now too. Test cricket is a completely different game to T20, and T20 has become so different to one-day international cricket. It's just too many forms of cricket now. We need to have too many different sorts of players to play in the different forms. So let's see what happens from here. What do you got coming up this week, Troy?
Well, just before we go, last night too, up in Townsville, there was the Battle of the Reef, or Battle on the Reef, with some current NRL players and some former NRL players going at it. So we saw Regan Campbell-Gillard defeat Jason Taumalolo by a split decision. Recently retired Tavita Pangai Jr., he beat Frank Amato in a heavyweight competition, and I saw that when he was being interviewed on Stan Sport, that he's called out one of the heavyweights in Australia to stop running, and he's after him. So he's definitely taking to his boxing career. Big Nelson and Sofa Solomona. I feel sorry for Jared Wallace because TKO, he knocked him out and defeated him. I wouldn't want to have taken on Big Nelson. Current Eels player, co-captain Junior Paolo, defeated Ben Hannon as well. Got him with a couple of beautiful shots, and bit of a state of origin fight as well. Justin Hodges beat Matty Cooper by decision, so maybe those two might go at it again, because I don't think Matty will want to be going out a loser it was his first boxing match anyway. So some interesting fights there, but I certainly wouldn't want to take on Nelson or Junior, that's for sure.
Yeah, they can have a bit of a swing. Junior Paulo's a pretty big guy, so glad I haven't encountered him in the field of rugby union. I know he played a few games for Oatley back in the day when he wasn't supposed to, but there you go. Nobody knows about it apparently, so yes, they do. Everyone knows about it. So headgear doesn't cover you when you're like 6 foot and 125 kilos and like over 100 tattoos, and pretty obvious, mate. You stick out pretty easy.
Yeah.
So what do you got on this week for Paracave Podcast?
So just keep on running with my interview with Eels fan Brian Rowe on the podcast, part of my fan series, and I'll be interviewing another fan of the Parramatta Eels, and a celebrity fan this time, Paul Gow, so former professional golfer. He's an Eels fan, so I'll interview him tomorrow. And coming up later on in the week, there'll be a interview with a former Panthers, Eels, Titans, Roosters and Sharks player, so he'll be on the podcast as well. So lots coming up, and a replay of this chat as well.
Yeah, there you go.
And next week,
looking
and
forward.
next weekend, we've got some rugby league international starting. So there still is a little bit of rugby league for the year as well. So no doubt we'll chat about that next week.
100%. There's plenty of stuff to talk about. So I can tell you that there's no shortage of things around the world of sport. Troy, thanks for joining me again tonight. Always good. Look forward to having a chat for you again next week. Have a fabulous week, and I will catch you again next Friday night here on the Weekend Sports Wrap, probably about 6:20 p.m. again.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for having me once again, Duckman. Enjoy your week. Talk then.
Always good. All right, see you, Troy. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. See you next time.